If we would not be lazy, we would all be Buddhas by now. And some of you may say, what? I'm running around like crazy. Do you know how many projects I have in my list? I'm reading plenty of books. I'm working 7 days a week. I have a family and study the Dharma and so on. So, but as you know, there are 3 kinds of laziness. And, or some of you may not know. So one of it is very obvious, like sleep, procrastination. Another one is maybe not so obvious, is attachment to pleasure, to worldly concerns. And then there's another one that is something I feel very connected to, and maybe you too, is putting yourself down, low self-esteem. So, and I would like to share something in that regard that maybe you have some connection with as well. Some years ago, actually before this hall here got built, before Shanrezi Hall got built, before I moved to Sravasti Abbey, I had a dream. And I dreamt of a hall like this, actually. And we were preparing for a visit of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And so we had no furniture in yet, nothing was prepared. But there he was already, and coming from there. And then, so we were accompanying him, and he looked, and then at this place, there was a table. And on this table was a sitha, a string instrument, a musical string instrument, a huge one. So we walked towards this instrument, and then he turned to me and he said, "You have to learn this." And I looked around, where's the teacher? So that boggled me for quite a while, and I really thought I need a teacher, who was right next to me and saying, you have to do this, and then we go there and there, every step. And this teacher knows exactly what I need. So I think it's not quite like that. What is important to know is that the development of our mind, the progress in our study and practice depends entirely on us, how we will develop the Dharma within our own mind. So, for example, when I arrived here for the Vajrasattva retreat, soon after there was an introduction into the instruments of the Buddha hall, the bell and the drum. And I was totally intrigued by the sounds, especially of the drum. It sounded so wonderful, and I thought, this is really monastic-like. And I was just taken away, no other thoughts, no emotions, nothing. I was just with this moment, and I thought, this is really, really good. And so I think I shared that with Amma Lamsol, and she offered immediately, I can show you, you can learn. So we went to the hall, and she showed me the steps, how to do the evening drum. And so from then on, she was like, oh, from tomorrow onwards, you can do it. She was signing me up already. Said, are you serious? So then from then on, every day, I went to the hall and tried playing. But I recognized that my left hand was not quite in tune with my right hand. And so I was still experimenting and how it sounds like, and a little bit proud that it sounded really good, part way through. But then one day, I heard somebody entering the building. And then I felt in a sudden, like this grasping, oh, here I am, trying to play this drum. And then it was Valma Samten, and I know that she is a musical person. So I got really nervous, and my left hand even more couldn't play with the right hand together. It was just a mess, and I was so ashamed. And then I had all kinds of thoughts like, oh, what do I think who I am, that I could play these instruments, and I have never been good in instruments. I never played them here at the Abbey, and so these kind of thoughts. But what I did not hear or didn't want to hear is at that moment she said, sounds good. I did not hear that. So I continued playing. What about if when Schutten comes back, she will just run away? And then I could not play at all anymore. I forgot to count the Amitabha and forget it. And I thought, I put the sticks down and said, okay, I will do something else. It was a nice try. So then I wrote a letter to Wilma Lamsel and told her, I'm just not talented for that. Not telling her what was behind all that, that actually the self-grasping mind and the insecurity and all that was behind. So this is actually quite dangerous. If one could interpret it to other situations, if you don't look into your mind what's actually going on, yeah, you put things aside, you think you don't do well, but you don't recognize what's driving it actually. So then you may go into your life and you make decisions that actually may not be the right decisions, and you end up in an undesired situation because of that. So better is to, like Gen Rinpoche Geshe Tapke erinnert uns the other day, in those moments to look, or when Moshutran, reminding us to look at the object of negation, or to look at dependent origination, that there's grasping going on that comes from feeling and contact and sense organs and name and form and such. So just to hold in and at least afterwards. So, and then to habituate the mind again and again with these teachings, with these thoughts. And I would like to share a Tibetan story. I hear these days a lot of Tibetan stories. If you study with a geshe, then maybe it's normal. But they're really good. Lama Sutran has an excellent way to put the teachings into daily life practices so that we can understand them. Some geshes have these Tibetan stories that seem to explain them for them, So, yeah, there was at one time a man, an older man, and he had a huge family, and but nobody liked him. So he was very sad. He said, they're here because of me. And but he had some good virtue seeds in his mind, and he thought about the Buddha, and he heard about monastic life. He wanted to ordain. So, but the Buddha was not nearby, but Shariputra and Moggallama were nearby. So he went to Shariputra and asked for ordination, but Shariputra did not see any virtuous seed in his mind stream. And but the Buddha could observe from far away the situation. The old man was very sad. He thought by himself, even Angulimala could ordain after he killed so many human beings. And so the Buddha could see subtle imprints, wholesome seeds in his mind, and he said, yes, he can ordain. So he ordained and assigned Ananda to do the training with him. And as it is in monastic community, like here too, and at Buddha's time too, there are certain orders, like when you go for meals or go for teachings, the newest one sits in the very end. So he was sitting in the very end with the small children. And they made fun of him. They laughed at him and mocked him and threw breadcrumbs towards him. And he was very sad. He thought, it's just like with my family. Nobody likes me. So he was really so disturbed by that he thought better not to live and be reborn and then ordain as a young person. So he went to the water and wanted to kill himself. But Ananda recognized that, and he came to help and took him out of the water and said, this man lacks renunciation. And so he went to different situations, different places where they visited, situations where people were very poor, very sick, and suffering of all kinds of things. So, and then they came to a shore on water, and there was a skeleton and many bones were lying around a big skeleton. And the man was wondering what's going on. And Ananda said, this was your previous life, right before this life. And if you kill yourself now, this will be your future life. You will be a fish again. So this really touched the old man. He really understood by heart what it means. And he then thought that what the children are doing is not right, but what I'm doing is right. I have a good intention. I want to practice the path. So he then recognized that he himself has to be the teacher, basically, and apply the teachings into his own life. He has to take responsibility. So Ananda, or actually this man became an arhat. And Ananda was wondering, how come? What did the Buddha see? So, and the Buddha had the ability to see these very subtle virtuous roots in him, what Ananda could not see yet. But the Buddha saw that at one time, and now you may recognize if you haven't heard the story before, that this man was a small insect on a leaf on water, and wind was blowing, and there was a stupa blessed by the Buddha, and the little insect was driving, floating around the stupa. So, and since this object of the stupa of virtue was so virtuous, he had not the motivation to, or the insect had not the motivation to gain merit, but the stupa was so meritorious that he had planted the seeds for become a monk later. So, yes, even if we are not able to play an instrument yet, or to understand all the teachings, or to be really always super alert in meditation and have really clear thoughts, streams, or concentration, whatever it is, or in daily life, not being the best cook, or not even being able to clean well or translate well, or I don't know what. So with practice, we can improve, and should never, 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 ever give up on ourselves. So as it says also in the praise to Shanresi, please lead with your hand of compassion, me and my creators, to fields of bliss. And it means not that, if that would be a teacher, that the teacher is taking us everywhere and leading us to Sukhavati in the end and accompanying us and taking our hands, but rather it's holding the teachings. That's what Vano Shudran also emphasized in her commentary in the Shanresi book. Holding the teachings and applying the teachings to our mind and hearts. And then we will become the one who has gone to happiness. Yeah, and Gen Rinpoche Geshe Shetapke also pointed out this week that the qualities of our mind have no limit. When we engage, familiarize our mind with the Dharma, there's no limit to develop our mind. So I think we really, really, really have to remember that, that we can do everything we want if we continue slowly, steadily, look deeply and consistently into our mind, what's going on, what afflictions are driving the show, and don't let ourselves be put down by old afflictions, old habits, but rather be realistic and be not lazy, be courageous, be joyful that we have found the path and can study, practice the Dharma with wonderful, great teachers and communities and Dharma friends. Thank you.